So anyway, the WNBA posted a minute's worth of freaking highlights last night. Dijonai was relentless tonight for the Chicago Sky. And when I tell you, this league got annihilated over this post, I gotta tell you, fuck the WNBA.
Look at those comments, 300 responses, and every single one is absolutely eviscerating the WNBA's official account. This isn't a few trolls or casual haters. These are fans who showed up, watched the game, and are now telling the league exactly what they think about celebrating Dijonai Carrington, less than 48 hours after she posted white privilege about a player she'd just clotheslined on national television. The league didn't just ignore the backlash, they walked straight into it, posted a highlight reel, and got destroyed in their own comment section. So the question everyone's asking, does the WNBA actually understand how business works? Or are they intentionally antagonizing the fans who could save this league?
And this is exactly what Cathy Engelbert should have done with the new CBA, and then when she realized she hadn't done it, she should have done this last week. Project B has made a definitive decision about biological men in women's basketball. And far as they're concerned, biological men are banned from competition in Project B. Just like that. Just that quick.
Here's what makes this remarkable. We're not talking about some fringe issue or a debate with reasonable perspectives on both sides. We're watching a professional sports league that has never turned a profit in its 27-year history, actively push away the audience that finally started paying attention, and the contrast couldn't be sharper. While the WNBA is holding stakeholder meetings to figure out what a woman is, Project B just made a decision in about 15 seconds. They looked at the International Olympic Committee's policy, said we're following that, and moved on. Elena Beard, former WNBA player and co-founder of Project B, didn't mince words. She called out the WNBA's leadership directly for lacking accountability, integrity, and intentionality. Those aren't casual criticisms. That's a competitor identifying weakness and exploiting it.
All of it is needed right now in what could become one of the most defining moments in the history of the sport. Beard added that Project B, which says it will launch in January, will focus on, quote, creating joy and delivering the highest quality basketball. Project B has signed several WNBA stars, including Nneka Ogwumike, Jonquel Jones, and Sophie Cunningham. By the way, Kelsey Mitchell was signed to this league too. Cunningham's comments in ESPN's profile published in late July have put an increased focus on the WNBA's eligibility requirement.
The IOC announced their new policy in March 2024. It effectively bans transgender women, meaning biological males, from competing in female categories at the Olympics. Their reasoning was explicit, protecting fairness, safety, and integrity in the female category. FIBA followed that policy in April. Project B announced they're following it too. They've already signed Kelsey Mitchell, Nneka Ogwumike, Jonquel Jones, Sophie Cunningham, and Camila Cardoso. These aren't practice squad players. These are marquee names, and they're jumping to a league that can make basic definitional decisions without convening a committee. Meanwhile, Cathy Engelbert sent out a memo saying the WNBA needs to meet with stakeholders to discuss eligibility. The collective bargaining agreement has one line about this. Only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. That's it. No clarification about identity versus biology. And now you've got men declaring for the WNBA draft because the league can't articulate a coherent policy.
The league, it will follow the International Olympic Committee and FIBA gender eligibility guidelines, saying the decision is meant to provide, quote, consistency and confidence for players and stakeholders. In March, the IOC announced a new policy effectively banning transgender women, biological men, from competing in female categories at the Olympics. The IOC explained the policy, quote,
think about what Cathy Engelbert could have said. She could have released a statement saying our eligibility policies mirror those of the International Olympic Committee and FIBA, the governing bodies for international basketball. Since our players compete in the Olympics and the FIBA World Cup, we believe it's appropriate to maintain consistent standards across all levels of elite women's basketball. That's it. 30 seconds. Done. Instead, she's holding meetings to figure out what should be the most straightforward question in women's sports. And while she's doing that, Project B is signing her players and making the WNBA look incompetent. This isn't about the merits of the policy itself. This is about leadership. The ability to make a decision, communicate it clearly, and move forward. The WNBA is demonstrating they can't do that on the most basic level.
Effectively bargained, though, there is just one line in the CBA surrounding eligibility based on gender, which reads, only players who are women are eligible to play in the WNBA. It does not provide information on identity or gender assigned at birth, though there has been no transgender player assigned male at birth that has ever played in the WNBA. Project B told Front Office Sports its players are aware that the league will follow the gender eligibility guidelines of the IOC and FIBA. Project B has announced 15 players. I know Camila Cardoso is playing in that league. Trying to think of some of the others that are playing in that league. So that would have been real easy. Kathy Engelberg said our policy.
But the eligibility mess is almost background noise compared to what happened with Dijonai Carrington. Let's walk through the timeline because the details matter. During a game between the Connecticut Sun and Phoenix Mercury, Carrington delivered what can only be described as a clothesline to Sophie Cunningham. Not a basketball play, not incidental contact, a full extension hit that had nothing to do with the ball. 22 seconds after she walked off the court, Carrington posted on social media calling it white privilege. Not 22 minutes, not the next day, 22 seconds. She had her phone ready, had the post ready, and fired it off before she even sat down. Then yesterday, after everyone called her out for race baiting, she tried to gaslight the entire internet by claiming she wasn't talking about that specific play. She posted it 22 seconds after the incident, but sure, it was about something completely different. The audacity is almost impressive.
So anyway, the WNBA posted a minute's worth of freaking highlights last night. Dijonai was relentless tonight for the Chicago Sky. And when I tell you, this league got annihilated over this post, I gotta tell you, fuck the WNBA.
And here's where it gets worse. There's apparently a WNBA policy that prohibits players from posting on social media during games. Even if they're in the locker room, even if they've been ejected, they're not supposed to be on their phones posting. Carrington violated that policy twice. First with the white privilege, post 22 seconds after the clothesline. Then with a cryptic 823 inches post that many people interpreted as a threat or intimidation directed at the Indiana Fever before their next matchup. Both posts happened during active games. Both violated league policy. The punishment? Nothing. She played the very next game. No suspension, no fine that we know of. Not even a public statement from the league acknowledging the violation. Just complete silence followed by a highlight reel celebration.
I told you, they got annihilated. Annihilated. She should have not have been allowed to play in this game. What was the punishment for breaking rules about posting during the game? Yeah, that's something that's going around right now, that it is a violation for her to have made her white privilege post. And I guess actually her 823 post, which in my opinion implied a threat towards the Indiana Fever for the next game.
Now look at the WNBA's official response, or rather their complete lack of one. They didn't address the white privilege comment. They didn't address the policy violations. They didn't address the 823 inches post. Instead, they posted a 1-minute highlight package with the caption, "Dijonai was relentless tonight for the Chicago Sky." Not Connecticut, Chicago. They can't even get basic facts right in their own promotional content. But more importantly, they chose to celebrate this specific player at this specific moment, knowing exactly what the response would be, and they got absolutely annihilated. The comments are brutal. Fuck the WNBA. You should be suspending her, not celebrating her. Racist league. Where's the accountability? 300 comments of pure destruction. Not bots, not coordinated trolling. Just fans who are genuinely disgusted.
That is why the WNBA has never been able to make any money. They obviously have no way to read the room. They have nobody that understands optics or perception, lack of self-awareness for the league. I mean, and that's supposed to be Kathy's job. But here's the problem. Even the people posting shit on social media, let's be real, they have something against the new fans, the regular sports fans that are watching. They know when they posted this.
Here's what makes this significant. The WNBA has never made money, not once in 27 years. They've survived entirely on NBA subsidies, which according to various reports range from $10 to $15 million annually. Some estimates put it higher. The league has been on life support since its inception, sustained only because the NBA views it as a social responsibility or diversity initiative rather than a legitimate business. Then Caitlin Clark shows up. Suddenly you've got ratings that triple previous records. You've got sold out arenas. You've got mainstream sports media actually covering WNBA games. You've got casual fans tuning in who never watched women's basketball before. This is the moment. This is the opportunity the league has been waiting for since 1997. And what do? They let their players attack the fans as racist. They let their players attack the one player bringing in the audience. They celebrate someone who just posted white privilege about a violent foul. They can't define what a woman is. They can't enforce their own social media policies. They can't make basic business decisions.
That's what they're doing. Either that or, wow, they don't understand optics to save their life at this point. Perception. Total lack of self-awareness.
The phrase that keeps coming up is lack of self-awareness, and it's accurate, but it's also incomplete, because at a certain point you have to consider whether this is actually incompetence or if it's something else. Think about who's running the WNBA's social media accounts. These aren't random interns who don't understand basketball culture. These are professionals who know exactly what they're doing. They knew what the response would be when they posted that Carrington highlight reel. They knew people were furious about the white privilege comment. They knew she'd violated league policies. They knew the optics were terrible, and they posted it anyway. So either they're catastrophically incompetent, or they're intentionally antagonizing a significant portion of their audience because they resent those fans. Neither option is good, but one suggests fixable ignorance, and the other suggests active hostility toward the people trying to support your league. Let's talk about what this looks like from a business perspective. You're the WNBA. You've never made money. You're subsidized by the NBA. Your players complain constantly about pay disparity even though the economic fundamentals don't support higher salaries. Revenue sharing doesn't work when there's no revenue to share. Then you finally get a breakthrough. Caitlin Clark brings millions of eyeballs. Ratings for Indiana Fever games are crushing previous records. Attendance is up. Merchandise sales are up. Mainstream sports media is actually talking about your league. This is the golden goose you've been praying for. Now imagine you're a competent business leader. What do? You protect that asset. You promote the storylines that drive interest. You make sure the game experience is positive for new fans. You enforce rules consistently so the product looks professional. You avoid unnecessary controversies that alienate the audience you just gained. You make it easy for casual fans to become invested fans. You capitalize on momentum. What does the WNBA actually do? They let Angel Reese call Caitlin Clark fans the dark side with no consequences. They let players complain that Clark gets too much attention. They let Dijonai Carrington post white privilege after a dirty play with no discipline. They post highlight reels celebrating players who just race-baited their audience. They hold stakeholder meetings to define basic terms. They can't make simple policy decisions that their competitors handle in 15 seconds. They actively antagonize the new fans in their comment sections. This isn't a mistake, this is a pattern, and the pattern suggests that significant portions of the WNBA's infrastructure, from social media managers to team personnel to league officials, actively resent the new audience. They don't want these fans. They view them as invaders, as outsiders, as people who only showed up because of one player and therefore don't deserve respect. There's a palpable hostility toward anyone who wasn't watching when the league averaged 300,000 viewers on a good night. The problem is that those legacy fans, the ones who watched for 27 years, they weren't enough. They never generated sufficient revenue to make the league viable. The WNBA needs the new fans. They need the Caitlin Clark bandwagon jumpers. They need the casual sports fans who tune in for one player and might stay for the product. They need the people they're currently insulting and dismissing, because without them, it's back to empty arenas and NBA subsidies and irrelevance. Project B understands this. Elena Beard's comments weren't subtle. She called out the WNBA's leadership directly for lacking accountability and integrity during what could be one of the most defining moments in the history of women's basketball. She's right. This is the moment. This is when the WNBA either capitalizes on unprecedented attention or squanders it completely. And right now, they're choosing to squander it. Look at the practical differences. Project B makes a clear eligibility policy in one day. The WNBA schedules meetings. Project B signs marquee players who want professional management. The WNBA posts highlight reels of players who violate league policies. Project B talks about creating joy and delivering high-quality basketball. The WNBA's players call their fans racist. One league is positioning itself as the professional alternative. The other is positioning itself as the amateur hour that can't get out of its own way. The comments on that Carrington highlight post tell you everything you need to know about where this is heading. I thought the WNBA claimed to have no space for hate. What was the punishment for breaking rules about posting during the game? She should have been suspended. You're ruining the sport for women and girls. What an effing garbage organization the WNBA is. Complete and utter trash. These aren't isolated complaints. This is 300 comments of sustained criticism from people who were engaged enough to watch the game, follow the controversy, and respond to the official league account. Those are your customers. Those are the people who could save your league. And you're telling them to fuck off by celebrating the player they're angry about. You're telling them their concerns don't matter. You're telling them they're not welcome unless they accept whatever the WNBA does without criticism. That's not how you build a sustainable business. That's how you guarantee failure. The tragedy is that this was avoidable. Every single piece of this disaster was preventable. Kathy Engelbert could have copied the IOC policy. She could have enforced the social media rules consistently. She could have issued a statement clarifying that race baiting violates league values. She could have told her social media team to read the room before posting. None of this required genius-level leadership. It just required basic competence and a willingness to make obvious decisions. Instead, we're watching a league that finally got mainstream attention actively drive away the audience that could sustain it. We're watching players attack fans with impunity. We're watching policy paralysis on questions that have clear answers. We're watching a competitor league position itself as the professional alternative by simply doing the basics correctly. We're watching the WNBA choose ideology and resentment over business fundamentals and growth. So where does this go? Project B launches in January with major players and clear policies. The WNBA continues stumbling through controversies of its own making. More fans get disgusted and tune out. Ratings decline after the Caitlin Clark bump fades. Revenue doesn't materialize. The NBA gets tired of subsidizing dysfunction, and in 5 years, we'll look back at 2024 as the moment the WNBA could have become sustainable and chose not to. Because here's the thing about business, you don't get unlimited chances. You don't get to insult your customers repeatedly and expect them to keep showing up. You don't get to fumble basic decisions and maintain credibility. You don't get to celebrate people who violate your policies and expect respect. The WNBA got a gift with Caitlin Clark. They got attention they didn't earn and couldn't generate on their own, and they're throwing it away because they'd rather be right than successful. They'd rather antagonize new fans than build a sustainable league. They'd rather hold meetings about definitions than make obvious decisions. The comments on that post aren't just criticism, they're a warning. They're your audience telling you exactly what they think, and if you're smart, if you actually care about building something that lasts, you listen, you adjust, you fix the problems. But if you're the WNBA, you ignore it, post another highlight reel, and wonder why nobody's watching in 3 years.